Well, so when it comes to learning these words, this is a large part of getting them to stay. Now, I have a book that I often recommend to students because it does exactly this. This is, it's a vocabulary builder. Usually I don't like books that try to teach vocabulary. Most of the time they try to do it, well, I'll give you an example. If we talk about, say, jobs, you have a class where you talk about, I just saw it in here. Things that are on, there we go. No. A lot of books, they try to organize information like this. These are all occupations, all jobs, right? So then you have a teacher, a waitress, a cook, a firefighter. There's no link between any of those. I mean, yeah, they have a similar topic. They don't work in the same place. They don't do anything that's similar. Okay, waiter and waitress. Okay, but you know, there's also no link between the spelling, where the words come from, even how these words are used. So this is usually a problem. People think it's the best way for children to learn, to give them a lot of words quickly. But once you're past, you know, elementary school, this idea kind of becomes worthless. It's like if we're going to talk about vocabulary, there's chairs and desks and walls, and there's no link, no relationship. So you're back to memorizing a list. Whereas if you can start with one core that a number of words are built around. So here we have a root, bene. Yeah. Yeah. Beneficial. Yeah. Bonjour, right? Yeah.
And in Italian, just say
Bene, yeah. So this is this word here. It starts by giving you a bit of a history of this word, a story about it, right? And then for this root, we have 4 examples. 4 is usually a good number to work with for something like this because it gives you some different ideas, but you still have time to do more, okay? However, what it does with each one, you notice how much text there is. So, benediction, a prayer that asks for God's blessing, especially a prayer that concludes a worship service. This is the definition, what it means. Then we have an example. Want to read that one? Yeah. She's squeezed.
out of her blood and dirt out of caves.
Cathedral.
Sign and
Okay. So this is also a bit of a story. It's using the word in a sentence as an example. A lot of these sentences come from writings like that, from things that have already been written. Okay? We have an example, and then we have all of this. In benediction, the bene is joined by another Latin root, dictio, which you should know. Yeah, you know what this is. So then when we have this word here, it's this idea of speaking. Okay? word's meaning becomes something like well-wishing, which is a blessing, right? Perhaps the best known benediction is the so-called Aaronic benediction from the Bible, which begins, "May the Lord bless you and keep you." And it's amusing that they have that, because that's exactly what I have on my ankle. It's that. So this idea of a blessing, right? They give you some other examples. An important section of the Catholic Mass was traditionally known as the Benedictus, which just comes from the first word. It means blessed. So this is the past participle. As in, blessed are those people, right? And then we have Saint Benedict, who's a person who organized the first Christian monasteries. They try to give these different examples of how these roots are used, not because you have to remember all of this, right? It's not that to learn this word you need to learn Christian history. It's that the more time you spend on it, the deeper it goes and the better it stays with you. It's just like this idea, there's more relationships. So it's, I like this book. I recommend this whenever students have enough level to make use of it. But it's something where, again, you still have to look at the derivation, the origin, where the words come from, because this is mostly Latin and Greek roots. Why? Because our German-based words like dog, they just don't have the same vocabulary sort of network. They don't have, these Latin words are like a spider web. Every word is related to other ideas. Whereas the words we got from the German, when English was first starting as a language, we only needed one word for dog, one word for cat. We didn't need all of the adjectives for those animals. We just need the word. So it's not a universal solution. It doesn't do everything. But when you can, this is the best way to go. And then another way to sort of expand on this, to give it more directions for a relationship, is you say, okay, what about from other languages? So, first off, school and scholar. Where's that one from? Well, I'm pretty sure that one's in here. I'm trying to remember now. I don't remember offhand if that one is Latin or Greek. I'm going to say Latin. But it came through it came through at least one other language before English because of the C and the H. But then we do have peda as a root for school, which we see in more formal words like pedagogy. And it's often related as well to the word for children. There are a few other connections we can make like that. We can talk about synonyms for the word school. We can talk about, for example, an institute. An institute isn't always about learning. It can be for other things. But then we can look at where that comes from. We can talk about different kinds of school, right? If you think about how the grades are arranged, at the very bottom we have preschool, right? In German it's Kindergarten, which is basically kindergarten. It's a place where we keep children safe. But we have preschool and then elementary school, right? And then junior high school. some places, instead of that, instead of elementary school and junior and senior high school, what we have is grade school, which is for 1 through 5, I believe. And then there's middle school, and then high school. In other places, it's primary school. Primary for 1. And then we have secondary school, which is high school. Where I studied in Canada, I went to a secondary school. But the name of it was high school, but it was a secondary school system. And then we can talk about what comes after that. So we're back to college and university, right? So there is a place to tie in words that have a different root, but only once we have that base going, we know what these words do, then we can start making links to other words just from more relationships, right? So if you study words like this, it will be slower, but in the long run, you'll find it's actually more efficient, because like you said, you memorize all the words, and then tomorrow, it's all gone. So if you have half an hour